Monday Night Football is upon us, and today is going to be another fun one with some weird wrinkles going down. No A.J. Brown and Falcons-Eagles on Monday Night Football. Today we're going to do what we always do. We're going to look at the projections and the ownership projections. We're going to build some optimized lineups using the solver. We're going to sim some out on there. We're going to sim some more on Stochastic. At the end of the video, we're going to hand build. I'm going to give you guys 3 takeaways to build unique lineups using all that information throughout the course of the video here. But of course, let's hop into it, and let's start with the projections, the most important part. Today, Atlanta, 20 implied points. Philadelphia, 26 implied points. Again, no A.J. Brown is a big one in here. Devontae Smith should be getting a lot more work in this one. You would think Jahan Dotson might step up. Johnny Wilson, questionable after missing practice over the weekend. We'll see if he can go. Would be another guy potentially to pick up some routes outside. The Stochastic's projections right now, number 1, Jalen Hurts, 23.2 fantasy points. He's top projected player overall. Got to imagine he's going to come into a good amount of lineups because he's also got some of the best value metrics for himself right here with a 2.3 value. I would guess he got a little bit of a boost from A.J. Brown being out, a little more run plays you would expect coming his way. Shout out to the chat as well. Appreciate our guy Katz is a legend here. Our guy Matthew, wild day yesterday. Yes, hope you guys had a good day. Got a lot of takes right in the stream yesterday, which I'm always, the main goal for me. Just a slight profit though. Too much Jaden Daniels, too much Terry McLaurin, which I swear to God I'm going to stop chasing one of these days. But really my big adjustment is that I need to chase the stuff that I didn't believe in best ball, I think is really what I've learned in DFS. Because I had a lot of great takes that did not play enough lineups to put them all together. Shout out the rest of you guys here. Appreciate you all being here bright and early here on this Monday. Of course, Monday Night Football. What a better way to cap off than Sunday Night Football was, where that was not a fun game. Bijan, number 2, 19.6 points for him, projected by Stochastic, 10.4 salary on him, so less of a good value than Jalen Hurts. Still probably comes up a good amount as the second highest projected guy. Saquon Barkley, number 3, at 17.5. He's also the highest dollar guy on the slate, 10.6 salary for him. So he's going to be a player that we probably get a little bit less of. Obviously, the work should be there for him. The goal line work in week 1. He had 9 red zone intended touches in that game, 3 intended touches inside the 10-yard line. Got to expect there to be more with A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown had only 1 red zone intended touch last week. Not that it's guaranteed to go Saquon's way, but overall, big commitment to give him the ball in the red zone. He's unfortunately a player I think we're going to have to look towards a good amount today. Devontae Smith, a little bit light of a projection on him, 16.7. Historically, according to the Road of his Game Splits Explorer, he hasn't done better with A.J. Brown off the field, which kind of surprised me. Dallas Goedert, a little more touchdown production, but also overall not that much better. Historically, there hasn't really been a big pass game beneficiary for A.J. Brown being out, but theoretically, it should be Devontae Smith running out of the slot. Last week, got 7 out of his 8 targets out of the slot. He's facing an Atlanta team that last week gave a 50% target rate to the slot as well. So Devontae Smith, he's on the thumbnail. He's probably my favorite play on the slate. We'll see how the actual optimization stuff goes and how that impacts that. Cousins, number 5 at 14.3. Drake London, not too far behind. Goddard, Pitt's a good amount far behind. So the Atlanta pass game, not too well projected. Probably more of a tournament play as a result. Jahan Dotson, guy should pick up a good amount of routes with A.J. Brown out. He's only got a 6.98 projection on him, so not the highest 4K salary, but he's definitely a player you want to consider a little bit more. Dotson, not the most talented. That's how you get shipped out of a Commander's pass core that is desperate for anybody to get open. He wasn't able to do that, so now he's on Philadelphia. The hope is that the coaching, the scheme will get him a little more open, use him a little bit better. But he's definitely a player that if he were chalky, I might be more inclined to go Paris Campbell's way, go somebody else's way. And if he's not chalky, a little bit more interesting of a play. And if I had to guess too, I'll probably play him a little bit at captain just because the upside's there. The route should be there. Last week with A.J. Brown playing, he had 32 snaps, 23 routes. So the workload's there for him. It's only 13 rounds less than Devontae Smith last week with A.J. Brown going. So the assumption should be Jahan Dotson picks up more work, but probably doesn't know the offense well enough to feel too confident about. Top values besides that, Paris Campbell, 13.5x projection on him. He's $200 with a 2.7 projection. So Paris Campbell, your Jahan Dotson pivot, paying up to pay for Jahan Dotson. Maybe a move that gets a little bit lower owned as a result. Johnny Wilson, 1K flat, so a little bit the in-between, the mama bear of paying up to be contrarian with 1K in salary, a 4.4 projection. He's going to look okay. Again, we have to watch out, make sure he's active, and that's really going to be a key thing for today's slate. Was actually watching the Stochastic guys, Laffy and Matt Kajeski, right before this one, talk about the same thing. There's a lot of players here that could be active, that might be inactive, tight ends inclusive, so whoever's active in the Philadelphia Eagles pass game, you're going to be open to taking as flyers in the flex, I would say. For right now, it looks like Paris Campbell, Johnny Wilson. It could be, backup tight end X. I think that's the kind of thing we have to watch out for closer to lock that I can't tell you at 11 a.m. on the East Coast. Kadarius Hodge on Atlanta, 0.8 projection, $200 salary. He didn't do anything last week, did he? Just trying to check this real fast. Hodge. Daryl Hodge had 2 snaps last game. Daryl Hodge, not really a play. Jalen Hurts, a top 5 value, even though he's got a $10K salary on him. Again, he's probably going to be in every lineup, and he should be. Ray McLeod had some good usage last week overall. He had, he had 7 targets in that game. He has 7 to 10 touches in that game, 15 routes, so a 50% target per out run rate for him, 30 snaps, so about 20 snaps less, 25 snaps less than Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod. Honestly, might get a little bit overplayed because of having the one decent box score result last week, but he's a decent value according to the projections here. Sure, I got Charles here. Charles joined over the weekend. Appreciate him being here and appreciate all you guys hanging out on this fine Monday. Hope you had a good weekend if you're just tuning in. And of course, this is what I do here every day, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. I might keep not doing Wednesdays though, because I don't know if the rankings video really adds a lot of value and it's a lot of work for me, and I could kind of use that day to get myself centered and ready for the rest of the slate. So stay tuned for that. But tomorrow will be a best ball review show. Thursday, another showdown video no matter what. Friday, main slate. And of course, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. I'm doing the last minute final takes here, which has been money for me the last few weeks. 81% ownership expected to go Jalen Hurts according to Stochastic. Again, get all Stochastic's data and tools for yourself for 15% off. Check the link in the description if you want to take on that shot there. The only promo they have going right now, so get 15% off. Again, a lot of great tools here. Even if all you do is use the data and their single lineup tool, it's pretty cheap. It's under $50, I believe. It might be closer to like $20 right now to get that, to be able to get the single lineup simulator. So I would check that out if you are a casual, likes to hand build your stuff, but have a little bit more presence to what you're doing. McLeod's a cash lock. It should be underweight in GPP. Cash lock. I don't know if he's a cash lock. I don't know if he'll have enough ownership, but we'll get through this part. I could tell you'd probably be a cash lock when we get through the rest of this. Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, Kirk Cousins. That's your top 5 owned overall in that order. Cousins, though, only 4% at captain. If I had to guess, Cousins is a little bit underplayed for a QB at 9K on the slate. People are going to be down on him. You also have Devontae Smith at 8,800 because, again, the A.J. Brown injury messed up the pricing a little bit here. As a result, Kirk Cousins, to me, look, I always say here, it's not about building the best possible lineups here for a showdown. It is about building the most unique lineups that have a viable pathway to winning. Playing Kirk Cousins, dominating in a shootout kind of game, and still having Jalen Hurts put up production, Saquon, Devontae, whoever you want on the Eagles side putting up production, I think is going to be the low-owned tournament approach to go to here with only 4% captain ownership going Kirk Cousins' way. If, let's say, somehow he hits it captain, he's probably taking Pitts with him, probably taking London with him, maybe taking a Bijan with some pass game work, maybe taking a Ray McLeod. It's a way to get more unique here, but we'll see how the salary works in a moment. Drake London, $7,800 salary. He'll only be 9% at captain. Kyle Pitts, only 4% at captain, only 27% owned. Again, Pitts last week had 54 snaps, 22 routes. London, 56 snaps, 22 routes. Mooney, 53 snaps, 23 routes. These guys were all fine. Obviously, nobody earned targets that well. Ray McLeod being the only one that earned targets at a rate above 15%. But still, these guys are out there enough. You should have some confidence in them having the ability to find a ceiling. So that's sort of the main thing I would say for the Atlanta pass catchers here at really cheap prices and really not as much ownership as they would normally have. A little bit too much of a week one overreaction, I think, based on the ownership projections we're seeing here. Lower owned guys, got Tyler Algier under 10%. Algier last week, only 10 snaps, 3 routes, 3 intended touches. Really not good work for him overall. Did he get any goal line stuff? Yeah, no goal line work, 2 red zone touches for Bijan or intended touches for Bijan compared to 0 for Algier. Hard to see Algier being a play on the slate, barring injury to Bijan. Britton Covey, maybe a little bit more in the mix, returns kicks as well. He played 9 snaps last week, ran 4 routes, kind of a nothing player, but he is a player. Different price point as well than guys like Paris Campbell and Johnny Wilson, $1,600 salary. So not really a play I'd like to get to, but these guys, Covey, Wilson, Campbell, you can just rotate them in a build that you feel good about as your 5th player there as an Eagles receiver. And I think that wouldn't be a crazy thing to do. Gainwell going to be low owned. Gainwell last week, 15 snaps, 7 routes, 2 intended touches. Not really enough work to bank on there. Charlie Werner, you got 23 snaps. 23 snaps, 8 routes, 2 intended touches. Yeah, Werner's not a play. There's a ringing endorsement that you give at this point of a video. Grant Calcaterra, weird price tag on him, probably gets a little bit low ownership as a result. He played 36 snaps last game, ran 9 routes, had a 1.2 EPA per target, but only 1 target in that game. So really pretty ugly down here, but I really would focus in on Covey, Wilson, Paris Campbell. I think that's the 3 you kind of want to consider the most. as low-owned plays. And Falcons D, for what it's worth, we did see Jalen Hurts play a little bit sloppy last week. Only a 59% catchable ball rate for him last week, despite pretty good results. Ran 13 times. That's a positive for sure for playing him. But I think if you play Falcons D with Jalen Hurts, that also be one way to get that ownership down. Maybe capitalize on him playing a little bit loose and sloppy, because he's going to probably play more loose and sloppy without A.J. Brown out there, would be my guess. But that's all the ownership right now. Let's go to the solver next. Of course, what the solver gives us here is a bit of a look here at an optimizer level. It also shows the CTR projections as well, so we can do that. A top captain ownership, they're projecting about 25% going to Jalen Hurts. So for comparison's sake, Stochastic had 25.6. So no matter what, seems we should be expecting about a quarter of the field at least to be playing Jalen Hurts a captain based on both sides' projections. Devontae Smith, 17.5% a captain. Stochastic has him at 13.5, so a little bit more shading for ETR's way. Like Lucen, I bet you do, Bullock. You do. Bijan Robinson, your breads are tight and well-baked. So I would say, from what I know, the one thing I know about you, that would be it. 12.8% ownership going for Bijan, 12.2 for Saquon, 8.2 for Goddard. Again, low ownership for London, low ownership for Pitts, low ownership for Cousins, low ownership for Mooney. I think those are kind of the most interesting game theory plays that occur to me on top of my mind. Flex-wise, highest owned guys, Saquon, Jalen Hurts, Bijan, Devontae, Saquon, Drake London. Pretty much the same split we saw in Stochastic. But let's run 25 here with no settings on it. We'll see what just the math drives people towards here today. And really the goal of this one is just to see, again, what projections will push people towards more than they even realize. It's a big part of showdowns. A lot of times people don't recognize that, the math, it's same thing for main slates as well. We'll just force people to players more often than not. We talked about it yesterday where every lineup was having Deebo Samuel, Breece Hall, Cooper Kupp, and then whoever the fourth guy was, who I would forget in different shifts. But you kept getting those guys in every lineup because of the fact the math just said these guys are the best plays, best values. They work in a bunch of different configurations. Same thing for a showdown. We see 100% Jalen Hurts. It tells you right away the way to get different from the field would be to play no Jalen Hurts. That said, Jalen Hurts is a player here where there's a lot of functionality to fading him. I would say with the rushing upside, he ran 13 times last game, 4 of which were inside the red zone. Jalen Hurts, to me, the kind of play that you want to be able to go 100% to. That said, if you don't play him in lineups, you're going to be away from a large portion of the field. You're going to be unique kind of right away. So it's always about finding those little levers of uniqueness to pull on a showdown slate, and really any slate. For a showdown in particular, it's how it goes. Splash Monday. What's good, fellas? Appreciate Obi being here. Appreciate all you guys being here. And of course, if you appreciate content like this, please make sure to subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a comment. All your engagements go a long way for me because I'm a sole proprietor here, just showing you my gambling on stream every day. And of course, in particular for showdowns, you could ask the community, you could ask people to watch these videos. I probably provide as big of an edge as any other piece of content out there because of the way that I do this, where I'm looking at 2 of the industry's top tools. So check it out. Of course, hit the like button, subscribe, and check out the solver as well. Link in the description there if you want to check it out. Again, the optimization, I think a big part of this, but optimizing plus sims to me has given me a lot of control. And I think candidly is a big reason why I've been profitable on pretty much every slate so far this year, everything besides one. Yesterday, even on the cage match video I did with Neil, that we did on Fantasy Points channel with Neil and Jake Tribby, I built one of the best lineups that I've built on stream ever. Had almost 200 points in a cash game. So I'm clicking on all cylinders, and I do think the solver has been a good part of that process for me. So use Stochastic as well. Of course, they do a great job too, but the solver, if you want your hand on the wheel, want a little more control, and still get a sim process and an optimizer process, I do think they do a good job. Anyway, Devontae Smith coming up a good amount as well. Captain-wise, you're getting Jalen Hurts 24% of the time and just the math of it. Bijan Robinson, you're getting 51% of the time in the flex, 13% at captain. Really no overwhelming captains here besides Jalen Hurts. 24% for him. You're only getting Devontae Smith in the flex. That's kind of interesting. Not enough Devontae captain, which is a play that I like a good amount of captain today. Dallas Goedert, only getting him. No, you're getting him at both. Getting some captain Goddard, some captain Drake. Nothing too interesting here besides, again, Jalen Hurts being in every lineup. He's going to get forced in a lot, but that's not a surprise. You're getting 5-1 builds for the Eagles, not too often. 4-2 Eagles for the Falcons, not too often. You're not getting any 5-1 Falcons. So, again, another low-owned thing you could do. Playing only Jalen Hurts, playing only a pass catcher and fading Jalen Hurts in a 5-1 Falcons build. Obviously, you'd have to be playing a Falcons ass-kicking, but that's definitely a build. It's not going to have a lot of ownership on it if it were to happen. 4-2 Eagles, 3-3 Eagles coming up the most. So nothing too surprising there. Eagles have pretty good values on their side with no A.J. Brown. They fit the game theory sense. They're going to come up a lot math-wise here. And your optimal lineup right now, if you wanted to play cash as of 11:15 a.m. on the East Coast, this would be your optimal lineup for cash. Jalen Hurts, Bijan, Devontae Smith, Drake London, Jake Elliott, and Ray McCloud. So Ray McCloud, maybe a little bit chalkier, as I think Katz was saying before. All right, so we got 300 lineups here we're going to optimize. Let's put on our showdown settings here. Showdown V2. And basically what this does for me is it will leave a little bit of salary on the table. We'll also force some boosts for, let's say, a wide receiver captain or a QB captain. We're going to boost then the wide receivers, the tight ends. If we have a wide receiver captain, we're going to boost the QB to try to get him in the lineup, but not force them in the lineup necessarily. Now we're going to sim out 300 lineups here. Of course, we'll head to Stochastic. We'll do a hand build as well. The usual menu here for a game preview. And water is definitely on the menu. I am thirsty. I am dehydrated feeling. I don't know why. Oh, man. Let's see. So what are we getting here so far? I didn't put variance on. I always fucking forget to put the variance on. And I'm like, why is this going so fucking slow? And it's the same reason every time. Let's just put it on high variance to make it go the fastest possible. Here we go. You can feel that variance coming in. Getting Charlie Werner in lineups, that's how you know that variance is working. Charlie Werner, Kenneth Gainwell. It's building, though. So basically what the solver does, just so you guys, if you haven't seen it before, you would optimize your lineups. You can optimize 300 lineups. You can optimize up to 500. You just have to add in another 200 manually in this process here. And basically, then you could sim those 500 against a pre-created field by UTR staff, where they'll create the biggest tournaments possible to kind of represent what the field will look like, what lineups in those tournaments will look like. And it's going to run whatever lineups you generate and optimize are against lineups that they've pre-built. So that's sort of the main process here. Stochastic, for comparison's sake, they build 10,000 lineups if you are getting the max product that they have there. 10,000 lineups, and they have those 10,000 lineups that are meant to represent what a pool of 10,000 lineups would be based on ownership. And then we'll have those compete 10,000 times. So little differences that do kind of matter a good amount here when you are... All right, do they not have sims today? Okay, so ETR sometimes doesn't have sims in the morning, and it looks like that's going to be the case here. So we're not going to be able to sim these out. But right now, top projected one with the variance on would be Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Jake Elliott, Ray McLeod, Devontae Smith. So no Kirk Cousins here. We'll see what the sim results are in Stochastic. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do it on ETR. You can do it for yourself later on. Check the link for the solver and go do it for yourself. That same process I just gave you. There would normally be a sim button that pops up if they have the sims available, but they don't have it yet. Let's go to Stochastic. Let's update our little sticker as well. We're now generating our contest pool for Stochastic, so we'll get to see what a sim does here. I'd like to have both sites available, but unfortunately, ETR's sim lineup builds. It's like weird. Yesterday, they didn't have it for the Millie Maker. They only had like the slant being the biggest tournament. So there are sometimes weird things with the ETR sims. I just have to say is like my one caveat to using it. Whereas Stochastic's pretty reliable. Same thing every time. So, your mileage may vary, etc. Are going to run this contest sim here. 25% to first should be about what the Millie Maker field is, if I'm remembering correctly. And we'll sim it out here. Of course, you have requests for what you want to see here. Unique captains, unique players and lineups. Feel free to drop it in the chat, and I'll get to it as we go through the overarching look first. And of course, we will try to hand build at the end here. Hand build a single entry for ourselves and see how that does. The old single lineup simulator. They changed the look of this? Looking at it in a different tab, and it looks different than it did the other day. Yeah, I think they changed it. Well, that's because of my window size. No, it's because of my window size. Well, I guess that works on mobile. Good thing to know. The single lineup simulator for Stochastic seems like it's mobile friendly because I had my window size a little bit differently, and it seemed like it was making it look more like a mobile mode, which is something that's created startup products harder to do than you would think. All right, there we go. Should be a good window size now. Results coming up here. Again, this is a real-time process, guys. You're seeing exactly how it is, so unfortunately can't speed it up anymore. Do you do any eliminators? No, I did not. It's not a format for me. I only do the main best ball tournaments. We got Jalen Hurts, Bijan, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, Jake Elliott, Johnny Wilson. So leaving 4,200 in salary on the table. Again, the quickest way to get unique is going to be to leave a lot of salary on the table in a showdown. You always have to keep that in mind. Johnny Wilson getting direct leverage on the Jahan Dotson, the Paris Campbell, theoretically the Ray McLeod as well. So you're getting the pass game. You're getting a Hurts triple stack. It probably increases the ownership a little bit of the lineup. It all makes sense to me. Jalen Hurts, captain again, is the number 2 ROI lineup. We have Hurts, Bijan, Devontae, Eagles D, Jahan Dotson, and Jake Elliott. So an Eagles 5-1 here. In fact, Both top builds going Eagles onslaughts, both Philly 5-1 builds up top here in terms of the top ROIs. Number 3 is a 2-4 here where we have Jake Elliott, Bijan. Jake Elliott at captains. That's a little bit more unique. Hard for Jake Elliott to hit captain, but there it is. Bijan, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, Drake London, Jalen Hurts. Again, Jalen Hurts at captain and number 4 as well. Jalen Hurts, Bijan, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, Eagles, Johnny Wilson. And at number 5 is also Jalen Hurts. So top 5 lineups, 4 Jalen Hurts captains, 1 Jake Elliott captain. Jalen Hurts, Darnell Mooney, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, Jake Elliott, Saquon Barkley. So all these lineups here besides this one with the kicker captain leaving a good amount of salary on the table. The expectation would be if you play Jalen Hurts at captain, you got to leave money on the table or else you're going to end up duped. So that's pretty much how it always would go for that. Not seeing Eagles D coming up very much. Then you said one. I mean, yeah, it's going to come up in an Eagles 5-1. It should come up like generally in 5-1s, having the defense, having the kicker from the 5-1 onslaught team, like that does make lineups more often than not. So having a kicker, having a defense, and if you're playing a Philly onslaught, should happen more naturally for you. Player ROIs in this one, Jake Elliott at captain is a 40% ROI. So kicker captain, it seems like the Sims are liking that a lot this morning. Johnny Wilson at the flex, 31% ROI for him. So again, a pivot point, big bodied guy who could theoretically get a touchdown. What did he do in week 1? I don't think I have Johnny Wilson in my sheet. You don't have Johnny Wilson in my sheet, unfortunately. I can't add him that fast. For Johnny Wilson, look, the goal really for him is like he catches 1 touchdown, and I think that would be enough for him to get close to making a lineup. He's coming up a lot in the Sims. I wouldn't go crazy on him again. I would treat him. I would treat Paris Campbell. I would treat Britton Covey, assuming all 3 of those guys are active. I would treat them as similar plays, and Jahan Dotson I would treat as a play a little bit above them. But those are the 4 guys that you're trying to rotate around and find unique combos of, I would say. Johnny Wilson, yeah, so he's number 4. Jalen Hurts at captain, also a high ROI. Everything else here, negative ROIs, including Eagles D in the flex. If Wilson does not play, got a hammy injury Saturday, that's what I was talking about. Who'd be your Philadelphia wide receiver 2? It's Jahan Dotson. It's Jahan Dotson even if he does play. Dotson's ahead of Wilson. He ran a lot of routes. He had 1 target in week 1. Okay, so it wasn't red zone, right? I feel like it was like around the 40, remembering correctly. But yeah, Wilson, to me, like the hope for him would be that he absorbs A.J. Brown's goal line red zone usage. Again, A.J. Brown had a red zone target last week. I think that's what you're hoping for Johnny Wilson, but in terms of the crush of routes, like the routes are going to go Jahan Dotson's way no matter what. So if you're not playing Dotson, you're hoping he's inefficient on those routes. You're hoping that a Wilson, a Covey, a Campbell comes in. But like Dotson played like 25 snaps last week. He had a good role, or he had a role already with A.J. Brown in. So when A.J. Brown goes out, he's going to probably have a better role. And he might displace Devontae Smith from the slot, but we'll see how that goes. Kind of weird how that could go. Dotson got his only target last week playing out wide, but he really shouldn't be playing out wide. Exposures overall for these top 150 lineups. Getting a lot of exposure to Jake Elliott in the flex. So again, Jake Elliott in the flex coming a lot according to Stochastic, and Jake Elliott at captain winning lineups a lot as well. So Jake Elliott, it seems according to the Sims here, a very strong play to go to. Would also be a bit of leverage against Saquon, I suppose. It's a lot of a kicker though. 64% for Jake Elliott in the flex. How much of him in the captain? Yeah, 70% Jake Elliott is what the Stochastic Sims are giving you right now. That's a lot of Jake Elliott. I probably wouldn't go that crazy on him, but this is what the math says, so keep that in mind. Bijan, number 2, 59% exposure to him in the flex. Number 3, Jalen Hurts, 50% exposure in the flex. Number 4, Devontae Smith, 47% exposure in the flex. And number 5, Jalen Hurts at captain, 45% at captain. So even with the fact that he's a known chalk quantity at captain, 25% expected ownership there, the Sims are telling you to get about double that. So that, again, lends credence to the fact that if you don't play Jalen Hurts today, if Hurts were to somehow fail, or if you play him in the flex, like, you are getting some outcomes that are maybe not accounted for as much as they should be. People will load up on Hurts at captain because they're going to follow these Sims blindly. B, they're going to be pushed there organically by the projections. So if I had to guess, Hurts is probably going to be, they're saying 25%. I think with no A.J. Brown, we're talking 33% owned at captain, which would still probably make him a plus ROI play at captain, but I think he definitely gets a little bit higher. I don't think the Stochastic Sims would do that. I don't think they're saying a 1-game sample of Pittsburgh making a bunch of field goals. It's not really how projections work for large companies. But yeah, definitely, it's more, I think, the fact that Saquon's going to be played a lot. We talked about the ownership there. B, kickers are always undervalued in showdown kind of builds anyway. So those were the main things there. It wouldn't be that would be the case. But if you want to just go, again, things that happen in week 1 aren't going to happen every week. But if you wanted to take that logic, you could. I just personally wouldn't. All right. Besides that, anything else to note here? Good look at some unique captains as well, real fast. Unique captains, including, I guess, this is a more unique captain than I would have thought. Captain Devontae Smith, my favorite player, I think, to try out at captain today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, does not historically receive a boost according to the RotoViz Game Splits Explorer. When A.J. Brown's off the field, he's actually had worse games when A.J. Brown's been off. Same thing for Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert, fantasy-wise, it's a little bit less scoring, but does occasionally get slightly more touchdowns. So nobody on paper really benefits hugely from A.J. Brown not being in the receiver core. But Devontae Smith at captain, Bijan, Darnell Mooney, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts, Younghoe Koo. 48.8 salary on this one. You are fading Saquon. You are fading the pass catchers, the main pass catchers for Atlanta. You're fading Kirk Cousins. It's okay. Devontae in this one with Bijan, Goddard, Eagles D, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts. So again, a 5-1 build. The bring back is Bijan. Normally in a 5-1 build, you want a receiver to be your bring back. But Bijan did have more targets last week than Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Kyle Pitts. So I guess I could get Bijan being the bring back at a 5-1. Yeah, that works. Feels more likely to get duped than it would seem here, but 3 dupes, 48.6 salary. This one you could see a 50K salary, expected to get duped 27 times. Devontae Smith, Bijan, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts, Johnny Wilson, Saquon Barkley. Because you're using up the whole salary again, you just end up getting duped more often than you should. If you're going to use the whole salary, use it on something weird at captain. Devontae Smith is not weird enough. Jake Elliott is probably weird enough to use in a 50K lineup. Devontae Smith with Drake London, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, Younghoe Koo. I do like the idea of going to Cousins in these builds. He dropped back almost 40 times. Actually, no, that's Jalen Hurts. Never mind. Kirk Cousins dropped back 28 times. That's not good. Also, fucking awful last week is Kirk Cousins. Negative 0.63 EPA per drop back. Negative 5.4 EPA per run. I guess he tried to run at one point. It went catastrophically bad. Negative 0.5 EPA per pass was Kirk Cousins. Still a 62% catchable ball rate. A little better than Jalen Hurts, but yeah. Well, that week 1 for Kirk was not good. But I don't mind playing him in lineups. I do think he's a guy I want to get more of in lineups. Speaking of, let's see what it would look like. Kirk Cousins at captain. We got Kirk with a double stack here. So Kirk with Bijan, Dallas Goedert, Darnell Mooney, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts. So obviously you're probably not, you're definitely not wanting to play an Eagles 5-1 build with Kirk Cousins at captain. You do need to have at least 1 pass catcher. I would say 2 to 3 with Kirk ideally, because he's not going to run much, obviously. So having him here, 1.5 pass catchers, that's fine. Kirk with Bijan, Darnell Mooney, Devontae Elliott. How about one with like London and Pitts? How about we just go with like the binary thing here? Or this one, Kirk with Bijan, Dotson, Hurts, Pitts, Younghoe Koo. You're getting direct leverage on Devontae Smith. You're not playing Saquon either. You're kind of concentrating the production here. Of course, getting lower owned with Kirk at captain is an ugly one. I don't know if Younghoe Koo makes the most sense here, because for Kirk to hit, they have to score a lot of passing touchdowns. And I don't think they're just going to endlessly be in the red zone, giving up, field goal opportunities plus touchdown opportunities. But I suppose it's possible. Really, honestly, these Kirk builds don't do a lot for me. I think a Kirk build with London or Pitts and Ray would be interesting. Bijan's just getting in everywhere here. Yeah, this is not my most fun builds in the world. Let's go. Let's see a Pitts captain. Kyle Pitts is going to be low owned at captain. I do think it's an interesting play. Last week, Philadelphia's D did shut down tight end pretty well. 16% target rate, which is okay, but a negative 0.5 EPA. Pitts got 2 targets at tight end, 1 target out of the slot. Slot's a little bit softer for the Philadelphia defense based off the 1-week sample size. 44% target rate, 0.07 EPA. And they were pretty bad, actually. Philly's defense was pretty bad at defending out wide. 0.75 EPA allowed there on a 25% target rate. But in week 1, only Ray McLeod got targets out wide. That's so odd. All the targets last week for the Atlanta receivers, besides Ray McLeod's targets, came out of the slot. Drake London got 3 out of the slot. Mooney got 3 out of the slot. McLeod got 3 out of the slot, plus 4 out wide. And Pitts got 1 out of the slot as well. It's a weird way for that to work. Even Charlie Warner got his 2 targets out of the slot as well. So they were just targeting the slot. So Cousins couldn't get the ball out wide in week 1. That's not a great sign. But these Pitts builds, again, would be happy to take them for the most part. Favorite one, I think you'd want to have Kirk in it. I don't want Algier. I mean, the first one's probably my favorite, but I do think it gets duped. This one at 49.8 also probably gets duped with Pitts, Bijan, Mooney, Jake Elliott, Hurts, Cousins. That's way too obvious of a lineup. This one less so, 47.8 with Pitts, Bijan, Falcons, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins. So we're saying Eagles stall out in the red zone a lot, kick field goals with Jake Elliott. Falcons take 1 away on defense. The rest of it flows through Kyle Pitts for an outlier game. Bijan does enough. I think this would probably be my favorite build of this group. 47.8 salary. I think this one works. Falcons 4-2. Steelers defense is crippling. Yeah, I mean, they're better. They're not blitzing as much this year either, which is interesting to see for them. That's part of it too with last week with that game for Cousins, where I could see why the game plan might have been to keep him stationary in the pocket because historically the Steelers have blitzed about 50% of the time of plays. Instead, they ended up blitzing, I think it was like 20%, might have been less than that. So they might have just been preparing for a situation that didn't occur. Yeah, they blitzed 11% of the time in week 1, did Pittsburgh. So that would, if you want to have some faith in Cousins, that would be the one reason to have faith is like Pittsburgh. They were preparing for something Pittsburgh didn't do. And it might have been why they didn't even drop him back at all, but who knows? Where'd A.J. Brown's 10 targets go? Hopefully Goddard. I wouldn't view it as like the 10 targets get chopped up amongst the pass catchers. What's more likely is that you see more Hurts running. You see more Saquon involved. You do see a little more Devontae Smith, Goddard, and Dotson, I would say, in that order. But I don't think it's like, oh, somebody's going to get 10 targets in the game. Like, if anybody's going to get it, it's probably Devontae Smith. But I wouldn't view it as like they have to fill that way directly. That's not necessarily how that would go. Let's see Drake London captains. Again, just trying to find some completionism here at captain. Drake London with Bijan, Falcons D, Jake Elliott, Hurts, Kirk Cousins. You're getting a lot of Elliott and Hurts coming together. But a 4-2 build, 49.3 salary, 4-2 favoring the Falcons. I can see that being low enough to own to be okay. This one less so. Drake London, Mooney, Smith, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins. Got to think that one gets duped at that salary with kind of all known quantities of player. 5-1 Falcons build with London. I think this is kind of interesting. So we got London, Bijan, Falcons, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, Younghoe Koo. I feel like a 5-1 build would look the best with Bijan at captain, but that one I think is an okay one to go to. And again, you could also probably swap off Jalen Hurts and go to Devontae Smith there. Leave more money on the table. 5-1s work better with the opposing pass catcher. That's sort of how that works. Let's look at Bijan real fast here. Bijan captain in a 4-2. I mean, these builds are all perfectly fine. None of them are really doing it for me where I feel like I want to stop on it. All right, here's a 5-1 with Bijan captain. Bijan, Mooney, London, Elliott, Cousins, Pitts. So you're fading Jalen Hurts and also not playing Falcons D. I don't think that works. I don't think that makes sense. You think you'd want Falcons and a 5-1 build with Bijan at captain. Bijan, Falcons, Jake Elliott, Hurts, Cousins, Pitts. Gotta say, you're going to get a lot of Elliott and Hurts if you use stochastic sims today. Like, that's going to come up more than it should. So Barkley almost gets more appealing here because the sims are not giving you Barkley at all. Let's look at Saquon captains. Saquon, Bijan, Drake London, Eagles, Jalen Hurts, Johnny Wilson. So an Eagles 4-2, getting low owned with Wilson. Not leaving a lot of salary on the table there. Here we go. Philly 5-1 with Saquon at captain. Saquon, Bijan, Dallas Goedert, Eagles, Hurts, Johnny Wilson. Feel getting Jake Elliott in this would feel a little bit better. But I guess if Barkley's hitting enough to score at captain, probably less field goals in that game because obviously a running back needs to score enough touchdowns to hit. DK needs to raise kicker prices the way they are, easily hitting 50-plus kicks now. Yeah, I don't know it's going to keep up all year necessarily, especially as the weather gets colder. But for right now, yeah, I could see that logic. And kickers, too, have been a lot of times you'll hear sharp players talk about it. The kickers are generally underplayed in showdowns. People don't like playing kickers, but they project well, have a good floor, and obviously have some amount of ceiling. Usually you're not playing them at captain, but this is one slate where that did come up for Jake Elliott. Captain Saquon. So Captain Saquon, I think it's okay. Captain Goddard. Goddard, Bijan, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts. That's definitely getting duped. These are all getting duped. Maybe this one less so. Eagles 5-1 with Goddard, Captain, Bijan, Eagles, Jake Elliott, Hurts, Saquon. I like this one actually. 48-9, Goddard, Captain. Hard for me to see Goddard having enough ceiling to get there, but if he did, it would work. Still 7 dupes on it though. I don't know if that's true. I feel like if you leave 1,100 on salary, go a 5-1 with kicker and defense, I don't think that gets duped as much as it thinks. Yeah, those are interesting builds. Last one here. I think, unless there's any other requests. Dotson captain. All right, Jahan Dotson at captain, 73% win rate. Eagles 4-2. Dotson, Bijan, London, Elliott, Hurts, Barkley. So if Dotson hits at captain, you could fit in whatever you want. Hard to expect Dotson hit a captain again. He wasn't targeted at all last week, really. I mean, with AJ Brown out there still, he's generally not the greatest target earner in the world, so it's hard to expect him to be able to hit a captain, but he really does allow you to get in every possible player. You probably still want to leave some salary on the table, though, because he does allow you to get in every player. Maybe one more like this with Dotson, Devontae, Drake London, Elliott, Hurts, Saquon. I actually think I would play that one straight away right now. It's probably one of the ones that I would like the most out of all that we've showed on screen today. Again, absorbing the fact that Dotson is a pretty big risk, but you're leaving $2K on the salary with a cheaper captain. You're also still getting in players I like Devontae Smith, like Jalen Hurts, like Drake London, like Elliott, like Saquon. I mean, I like that entire team. So that's how that looks for me. Any other requests at captain? If you have one, drop it in chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to move on and do the hand build, and we'll close out this video. Anybody else? We've done Bijan. Mooney's an interesting captain, I suppose. Will be low owned enough. Got enough work. Do naked captains with 2-4 builds. I wouldn't do naked captains in general. That's usually a losing money approach. Because generally, like, too many people play them, and then it just takes one pass catcher hitting with it. So even a Jalen Hurts, like, you usually want to have somebody catching passes with them. But you're seeing it too, like Simlies. I don't think anything's coming up unstacked. Mooney, Bijan, Goddard, Elliott, Hurts, Barkley. This is definitely getting duped. I wouldn't play that. Mooney, Bijan, Devontae Smith, Drake London, Elliott, Cousins. 4-2 favoring Atlanta. This one's not bad. Definitely more of a Falcons dominant build. You are missing out on Jalen Hurts, but I think tournament-wise, it makes sense. God, we just got to leave some more money on the table than these ones. This would get duped for sure. Falcons D on it. Yeah, I don't love the Mooney builds. That one looks good. The one that I just read out, the rest of them, not that great. McLeod captain's real thin. Like Ray McLeod probably outscores Jalen Hurts once out of 100 times, if I had to guess. Ray McLeod, Bijan, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, Saquon Barkley. I mean, this kind of build is doing what you should do with it. If you're going to put Ray McLeod at captain, you're jamming in a lot of the studs around it. The issue is it's probably going to be a little more duped than it should be. But that's really the main thing there. 47-5 with Ray at captain looks a little bit better. Ray, Bijan, Devontae Smith, Jake Elliott, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins. That plays for me. I actually think that's a really good lineup. I don't think Ray McLeod, again, can have the ceiling to hit. But in this kind of build, he doesn't really need to have the ceiling to hit. He has to get you like 15 to 20, and all these guys have to give you also 15 to 20, and that should be enough to get there. But I think this one for Ray, slightly negative ROI, but that would appeal to me the most. All right, let's hand build. Share this tab. All right, so you can see this is like the mobile-looking version. If I go a little bit wider, we're back to the usual. Captain for me on the slate. Talked about a lot here. I still think in terms of how I would view it, it's either Jalen Hurts or Devontae Smith at captain. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, we would have to get unique somewhere else. Right away, you're going to be with a lot of the field if you play Jalen Hurts at captain. But it's hard for me to imagine in a game with no AJ Brown how he doesn't put up enough points. Last week, let me look at the rushing EPA allowed to QBs. Atlanta last week did shut down QB rushes pretty well. Negative 0.08 EPA per QB rush, which anytime you get a number in the negative. Same thing yesterday for Jaden Daniels going against the Giants. Giants in week 1 had a negative EPA going against QB runs. Atlanta in week 1 had a negative EPA going against Justin Fields QB runs. So maybe they inhibit Jalen Hurts enough. All right, I'm going to go Devontae at captain. It's a flimsy reason to go Devontae at captain, but we'll do it. Still think Jalen makes the flex no matter what. I think it'd be hard for him to do that in most situations. Let's add Jalen Hurts in the flex. So Devontae at captain, Jalen Hurts at the flex. On the Atlanta side, what do I like the most? Feels like it's hard to fade Bijan. Philly's defense in the run game last week, a 0.24 EPA per run allowed in the RBs. So we saw Josh Jacobs get there down the home stretch of that game, or look better at least after starting out so slow. I would say for this one, I do think Saquon is going to likely make the lineup here with the usage he gets. I don't think we want to do Dotson here because we didn't go Hurts at captain. We could go that way. Jake Elliott, we know the Sims love him. Saquon and Jake Elliott. So we're basically just saying the Eagles just keep pounding the ball on their side of the field. I think that works. Jake Elliott. I think we looked at that already. If you scroll back, you should be able to see that. Scroll back on the timeline, I mean. We got... All right, so we added Jake Elliott in, so we now have pretty much all of our Eagles we'd expect. Do I just want to play the Eagles ass-kicking? I feel like the Eagles ass-kicking is certainly a logical enough approach. How does Bijan not make the team, though? Bijan getting checkdowns, having some good run plays. We now only have $1,000 in salary, though. Got to drop off something, I would guess. And I like Devontae at captain way too much, though. Devontae last week, 22% target per route run. Obviously, expect that to go up a little bit with A.J. Brown out. 0.63 EPA per target. He was really good. Fuck, man. If you play Saquon and Jalen and Bijan, you're just going to be with all these fucking guys. I think Bijan's a great play, but I guess we have to play the pass game a little bit more. London, Pitts, Mooney. What are the most air yards? Mooney, 12.7 air yards per attempt compared to 8.3 for London, 9.9 for Ray, 8.3 for Pitts. So Mooney got the best downfield work. Eagles struggled a little bit downfield. 75% completion rate on deep throws last week. 2.2 EPA on those plays. All right. I guess, though nobody got a target of 20-plus air yards last week. But Mooney would be the most likely to get it. So I'll go Mooney here. So Mooney instead of Bijan leaves us $6K in salary left. Yeah, I don't see the Paris Campbell thing, really. He already got lapped by Dotson. I don't think he's the play I want to go to. He did have a good value on him, but that's going to make him more played than he probably should be. People just playing the projections. Goddard works okay. Why is this so small? Maybe if I shrink this down there, that's a little better. All right. Younghoe Koo. Younghoe Koo would be leveraged against Bijan a little bit. Only 1K left on the table. But playing both kickers gets the ownership down. So, all right, let's see what this does. Devontae captain, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Jake Elliott, Darnell Mooney, Younghoe Koo. Let's see what we get with this. Eagles D. We could try that in a second. And again, this is the single lineup simulator tool. This is the cheapest option you can get for yourself out there if you want to get some sim process in your life, but also, don't want to spend for the bigger products out there. So check it out. Link in the description for Stochastic. Get 15% off or use promo code SPLASH on there, whichever you prefer. All right, so 20% ROI on this one. I feel pretty good about that. Eagles D and a 5-1 would probably be okay as well. Let's see which has the higher ROI. So this would be a 5-1 build with Devontae, Hurts, Saquon, Elliott, Darnell Mooney as a bring back, and Eagles D. Let's see what we get. Still think this one is a little bit chalkier than I probably should be. But the 5-1 for the Eagles will be a little bit less played. All right, 32% ROI. So Well, you guys see the pathway to getting good ROI with the Sims. It's pretty obvious. Play some more Eagles. Play some Jake Elliott. The Sims seem to love Jake Elliott right now. I don't know if that's the way to get lower owned, but that's what the Sims are giving you right now. So if you're going to take anything to heart, it would be playing Jake Elliott, playing the core Eagles, and just maybe rotating around Falcons pieces around that. But that's definitely going to be the binary outcome that people expect. Because again, you got to remember the public's really down on the Falcons is what they saw. They've just spent a week of people bitching about Kirk Cousins, seeing that on social media, people saying he can't move. So if you play into the other side of it a little bit more, it's going to look better. But I think building those lineups by hand are not going to be quite as easy. So 3 takeaways to get unique on this one. Number one would be, man, this is tough. I mean, number one would be, I think, not playing Jalen Hurts. I guess that's not a good one, but that is the way to get unique right away. Everybody's gonna be playing Jalen Hurts today. It's still, if you're playing a 150 max, even a 20 max, I think probably putting in a handful of lineups, maybe not a quarter, but I would say if you're putting a 20 max, 2 to 4 lineups that just don't have Jalen Hurts in it, you really do win a lot of money if the guy doesn't hit. He's very unlikely not to hit. So it's hard to say like, hey, don't play 100% of that guy. Because I really do think more likely than not, Hurts makes every lineup. When he pops up everywhere, when he pops up in every sim, when he pops up in every optimizer, yes, that means it's a good play, but also good plays sometimes fail for a variety of reasons. So I would say if you want to get unique right away, just not playing Jalen Hurts at captain or flex would be the way to do that, even though obviously it could be a tough one, a tough needle to thread. Number 2 would be, I don't think this gets you unique. The Jake Elliott thing doesn't get you unique. The thing that gets you unique is playing more Falcons. Like, I think you can chop up ways to play the Eagles and play them in volume and play them in a way where you feel good about it. But again, you're playing the outcome that everybody's expecting. People are really down the Falcons. People saw enough from the Eagles, even with A.J. Brown out. They think it's all going to concentrate for Devontae Smith. They think, like you saw the chat asking earlier, they think it's going to lead to 10 more targets split between Devontae, Goddard, and Dotson. In reality, it's just going to kind of make things a little more muddied overall. Probably more Saquon to be my best guess and a little more volume for the receivers, but it's not going to be like a world-changing situation based on the historicals for the Eagles. So still like Devontae a lot, but I do think like just trying to get yourself out of the mindset of I have to play a bunch of Eagles to make up for A.J. Brown not being there, because in reality, you probably win more money in the Falcons in case of the Falcons winning, and then you having 4 Falcons and that stack hits it a huge way. So that's the way you get unique, but it's also not the most likely outcome, if that makes sense. Third way to get unique on this one would be, it's always the case. I will say this every time, leave salary on the table. Really important today, especially if you see, 6 guys in your lineup and they're all real guys, real players with real roles. And you also spent, all your salary besides like $500, you're probably getting duped a lot unless you have something weird at captain, like a Jake Elliott, maybe like a Dallas Goedert, but even that probably gets duped. You got to keep that in mind really in a major way today, because it's too easy to build lineups that feel good with Devontae being cheaper, with Goddard being cheaper. Like, it's a really, I think it's a very trappy kind of slate, and one too where maybe it's just a 500 lineup train that wins today. But it's your job to not be part of that 500 lineup train. It's your job to find a way to be the unique one, and hopefully you can bubble past that train. So I don't know how you do that with loading up on Eagles today, but I would say 5-1 builds the Eagles, probably the best way to do that if you want to play kind of the expected outcome and try to get unique with that. But there we go, guys. That's it for today, guys. Of course, I do videos here every Monday to Friday. Maybe not Wednesdays, but we'll see. Every Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. So please subscribe down below. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Of course, I'm just one person here doing this stuff, and I compete against companies, people with producers, all the stuff here. And I just show you what it's like to have a real process here, what it looks like to build lineups using some of those popular tools. And that's my goal here, to give you guys an edge through that. So support the show, please. Join down below, $4.99. But even if you don't have the money to do that, or you don't want to because you're mean and you hate me, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment. All that goes a long way. And of course, I reply to everything as well. Check out Stochastic, 15% off. Of course, supports the show. Also gets the tools that is showed on screen. If you really just want to get in for cheap, that single lineup tool is a good one. You can see all the options if you go click the link in the description as well. They lay it out pretty cleanly. Monthly packages, weekly packages, it all gets 15% off for you with that promo code SPLASH. Solver, you get no discount, but another great tool as well, combining the optimizer stuff with the sim stuff. I've had a lot of fun with it. I do think a large portion of my success so far this year in NFL. Haven't had the big win yet, but have had profitable slates, which is hard enough in NFL. And obviously it's, the work I do here, but having to be able to combine that work with a tool that allows me to get lineups that reflect what I'm seeing, I think it's been really helpful for me. So that's what you can get with the Solver. Check it out for yourself. Of course, gamble responsibly. even though it's always money time. And follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. Thank you to the fine folks who support the channel. I made some updates after people joined yesterday, but you too could get on this list and support the show for $4.99. You get a VIP Discord. You get my weekly data sheet, which I also do a video for only premium members on. I can tell you, I think the last 2 weeks, I've found edges in terms of players multiple times. Chris Godwin's a guy I talked about. I talked about it for free on Sunday too. But like, I think I'm in like really good form right now. So if you're going to tail me, now's the time to tail me on that form. But I'll be back tomorrow, guys. So, hey, no matter what you're playing tonight, I hope you have a great day. And of course, good luck. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.